My name is Anna Wilson, and I will be discussing the shift from the geometric period to the Orientalizing period throughout the history of Greek pottery. So first, the shift was caused from the reopening of the Mediterranean sea route. A lot of trading happened here, and they were able to have access to people that they didn't have access to before, such as the Phoenicians. And they had a lot of different art techniques that they passed on to the Greeks because of this. We start with the geometric designs through the geometric period. This was from 900 to 700 BC and featured a lot of linear geometric designs. As you can see, there's a lot of horizontal bands and different linear maze-like structures. It starts at the top and goes the whole way down and has very patterned techniques throughout it. This piece was most likely thrown in multiple pieces. You have the base here that was thrown in one piece, and then you have the neck that was thrown in another. This artist, personally, I believe, did a really good job of combining these two parts of the vase into one, because you have to use slit and hatched marks and put them together and smooth it out to make it look like one cohesive unit. The handle was also made separately, most likely by hand, and then attached as well. The lid is very flat and it could have been thrown, but it could have been made by hand too because it is so thin. You have the little knob on top that was most likely thrown also, and it starts very narrow and then flares near the top as well. It has a cream background that we'll see again throughout the rest of this work, and it has the deep brown foreground, which is very common even as they start trading with the different people throughout the Near East. I will say that the site that I used to find this vase, I had trouble finding the age range and being able to find a source that gave me the information to cite it. This website told me the date was 740 BCE. However, I believe that it was earlier than that because that would fall in the time range of the Orientalizing period, which I will talk about next. And I believe that it is older than that based on the fact that it does not have human or animal figures or any floral designs of any nature. So I believe that it's earlier than this. So the transition. This vase is a fantastic example of the area between the geometric period and the Orientalizing period. This again was thrown in multiple pieces. You have the body and then the neck. And this, you can surmise where the two were put together because there's a very definite line where they were pretty much smoothed out. You also have these two handles that are similar to the last one in that they're flat and they're thick, but they're still flat and they curve around as well. The lip flares out at the top, and you have a pretty solid base at the bottom that could have been thrown separately if it really wanted to, but was most likely thrown with the base as well. You have the geometric designs again, starting at the top with the different zigzags, diamonds, a whole bunch of different patterns, and then we get to the most important feature of this vase, showing that the Greeks were transitioning into the Orientalizing period. You have human figures and animal figures. What is so interesting about these figures is that the humans and the animals are very stylized. You have this man who he has a very circular body, which also shows that not all Greeks were fit and trim. That's something that a lot of people don't really think about because they built so many wonderful, huge things. You think that they'd be in shape. Obviously, they not all were. Also, you can see on his legs, it's a little hard to see, his thighs are in the shape of calves. This shows that they were wanting to show the human body and trying to copy it, but they didn't know how yet. They were still looking at the Near Eastern examples and trying to copy those. His arms are very thin and his head is in profile. He has one eye, and he reaches out to touch the two horses. This is also very important because it shows the first time that we have animals on vases, and the horses are very stylized as well. The body is very long, showing that they used the horses for multiple purposes. They took a feature of the horse and elongated it, showing that you could put multiple people to transfer them, multiple materials on the back of the horse. Also, the legs are very long, showing that the horse could move faster than humans, that they could transfer them to different places more quickly than humans could on foot. As we move down, we see the horses yet again and a human on a chariot. This shows that the humans could have been fit as well because the man has a thin waist and broad shoulders. Again, we see the elongated horses that were capable of carrying things, and in this case, transferring a human from one place to another faster than a human could walk. We also have a bird underneath the horse on this top register. It's very stylized as well. It has like one hair for a beak, one line for a tail feather, and it's kind of like a heron almost. If in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, we would see herons like this quite often. What's also interesting about this vase is the squiggly designs you see on the top of the body, on the lip, and on the handles. These are snakes, and they have little brown dots on them, and they signified funerary vases. So when you look at this, you're like, okay, this vase is for someone who died either in a ritual ceremony or to hold the remains of the human, whatever it may be as well. So now we are into the Orientalizing period. This was from 750 to 600 BC. This one was thrown in one piece, and as you can see, the background is still cream. You have that cream background with the dark colors in the foreground. What's interesting about this one is we start to see floral patterns. They're very primitive. They're just dots, not even connected together to form a complete flower. You also have a hybrid. This is very interesting. First, I'm going to talk about the felines, though. You have these, they're like feminine forms of lions, like the female version almost, some sort of cat. And you can see that they have very stylized paws to show the different muscle structures. And the darks of like the blackish brown and the reddish brown coloring on the figures show the different muscular structures. They also have cream lines to show those structures as well. We have this lion-type cat creature up here with a curly tail, and then we have another line down here with a mane that looks more like the traditional lion. We also have the hybrid in the middle, as I mentioned before, and it's very interesting because it has a human-like face, but it has a cat-like body, neck, paws, and tail. You also have this wing coming off of it that's very interesting, that brings a new element to it as well. This shows that the humans, represented in the hybrid, which has a crown on its head, were equal with the animals because they were of the same size, but also the crown is showing that the human was above the animals in another sense as well. You have a little lip at the top that is very thin, also with stripes, and it's just another architectural or creative design, similar to some of the geometric ones, showing that they still have some of it, that the Greeks are just changing what they want to, but also bringing in new cultural ideas from other cultures as well. This is another example from the Orientalizing period. This is the billed oil jug from 580 BC. This was most likely thrown in two pieces. You have a very long, egg-shaped body, and then a very thick lip at the top. You have those stripes again showing some of the geometric period, but it still has many Orientalizing influences as well through the different hybrids and floral images. So again, we have the hybrids. We have a very similar man with the dark hair, cat-like features, crown, and wing. We also have some of the feline creatures, and even the antelope that we saw in the last one as well, that I didn't touch on a whole bunch, that is very similar to the last one. I can even go back real quick and you can see right here at the bottom. Very similar to the one we see facing the other direction, eating. His body also responds to the movement, showing that they've really advanced in their way of showing how animals move in the Orientalizing period. As he moves forward to reach down to pick up his food, he bends forward and that foot moves with it. We also see boar for the first time, and it is right in the middle, and his genitalia is right in the middle of his stomach, which is a little bit different considering they're trying to form the animals. They're doing an okay job though. We also see this bird that looks almost like a pigeon in the second register from the top. And this could be an eagle possibly, or some other type of bird. To us, it looks like a pigeon, however. This is very interesting also with the background. This is the first time that flowers have been used as the background and outline in the animals. In the previous one, we saw the primitive flower with the dots. These are more like blobs, and the cream lines separate them to form the petals. And instead of them just being dots along the base, they are the background. So here are our bases. We started with the geometric period, and we moved to the Orientalizing. We start with very linear designs that are bands around the base, and then move into a kind of transition where we have both animals and humans with the geometric ideas. Then we move into a more clean, just plain vase with all of the different hybrids and animals and floral techniques with not many geometric ideas anymore. And finally we go to the last vase that has many hybrids, animals, creatures, floral designs, and they are fully immersed in the Orientalizing period. This is very important to understand as we study Greek pottery, Greek vases, and even Greek history, understanding who they were trading with and how their art changed from one period to another. Thank you. And here are my picture citations for all of the work I've used, and all of the information I've talked about today. Here are my sources. Thank you.
I do have a quick question. I'm interested in this figure back from the amphora from the Met, so I believe it was the second example here. When you talked about the bodily proportions of that figure around the neck of it, the masculine figure with the exaggerated calves. Yeah, I've never heard anything about that circular body thing as a sort of an atypical. We do think of the Greeks as being very muscular, very fit. Did you find more examples of that? I'd be really interested.
Haven't. That was just something that I surmised looking at it.
It's possible.
I thought it was interesting that, I mean, they built the Parthenon. They were, to get the clay to make this process, they would go to like mineral deposits, and they took the clay, and it was heavy. Like, it took multiple people, and they had to wedge it with their feet to get the air bubbles out, or else it would explode in the kiln. And so they had to do like this dance around it, and then pull it out, and then like to throw that large amount of clay, like throwing clay in like about an orange size is hard. Throwing something that's 27 inches high, that's gonna be like, I mean, a block of clay is 50 pounds, and that's a lot of clay to try and throw. And so to do that, you'd have to have, I mean, you have to be pretty strong to be able to throw that amount of clay. And the wheels at that time wouldn't have been mechanical, so they would have had to turn it with their foot at the same time while trying to mold 50 pounds of clay. And so you'd think that they'd have to be very like strong and in shape, but the fact that they represented a man as being a circle.
There's a precedent in other examples where the body is obscured by a shield of some sort. I'm not familiar with this shield type, but I wonder if that's a possibility too.
I hadn't found that, but that could be.
I don't know that this isn't really my field, so I was just curious about that. That's a really interesting idea.
Thanks for your question. Any other questions?